She sat quietly, her pencil scratching against the paper, unaware that her world was about to tilt. In a split second, her chair was yanked from beneath her, and she crashed to the floor. Laughter erupted, sharp and cruel, led by the one person she trusted most in that room, her teacher. The sting of betrayal cut deeper than the fall, and for 14-year-old Aaliyah, that moment would spark a fire that refused to be ignored. Wherever you're watching from, New York, London, Lagos, or beyond, share this story. Let's talk about what happens when trust is broken, and how we stand up. Drop your thoughts below, and let's keep this conversation alive. Aaliyah Thompson was a freshman at Lincoln High School, in a small, tight-knit town in Ohio. She was known for her quiet confidence, her love for history, and her knack for asking questions that made her teachers pause. Her family had moved to the town 2 years earlier, seeking a quieter life after the hustle of Cleveland. Aaliyah's mother, Tanya, worked long hours as a nurse, and her father, Marcus, was a mechanic who often stayed late at the shop. Aaliyah was their pride, the girl who carried their hopes for a better future. Lincoln High was a mostly white school, with only a handful of black students in Aaliyah's grade. She navigated the hallways with ease, though she often felt the weight of being one of the few. Her history teacher, Mr. Daniel Harper, was a 15-year veteran of the school, beloved for his engaging lessons and sharp wit. He had a reputation for pushing students to think critically, and Aaliyah admired him. She often stayed after class to discuss the civil rights movement or the impact of Reconstruction, topics that lit a spark in her. Mr. Harper always seemed to listen, nodding thoughtfully as she spoke. The classroom was a mix of faces, some friendly, some indifferent, a few openly hostile. Aaliyah had learned to shrug off the occasional sideways glance or whispered comment. She kept her head high, her focus on her grades and her dream of becoming a lawyer. But beneath her resilience, there was a quiet ache. She wanted to belong, to feel seen without being singled out. It was a Tuesday in late September, the kind of crisp day that hinted at fall. Aaliyah walked into third period history, her backpack slung over one shoulder. The room buzzed with the usual chatter, kids joking, comparing homework, scrolling on their phones. She took her usual seat near the front, second row, close enough to engage, but not so close as to draw attention. Mr. Harper was at his desk, flipping through papers, his usual coffee mug steaming beside him. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The lesson that day was on the Jim Crow era, a topic Aaliyah knew well from her own reading. She raised her hand often, her voice steady as she answered questions about segregation laws and their lasting impact. Mr. Harper nodded, his usual approving smile in place, but something felt off. Few boys in the back, Tyler, Ethan, and Jake, kept exchanging glances, snickering under their breath. Aaliyah ignored them, focusing on her notes. Then it happened. Mr. Harper was walking down the aisle, handing back quizzes from the previous week. As he passed Aaliyah's desk, he paused, his hand resting on the back of her chair. "Let's see if you're paying attention," he said, his tone light but with an edge she couldn't place. Before she could react, he pulled the chair out from under her. Aaliyah's arms flailed, her notebook crashing to the floor as she hit the ground hard. The room exploded in laughter. Tyler, Ethan, and Jake were doubled over, slapping their desks. A few other students joined in, their giggles sharp and mocking. Aaliyah's face burned as she scrambled to her feet, her heart pounding. She looked at Mr. Harper, expecting an apology, a hand to help her up. Instead, he was laughing too, his eyes crinkling as he waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, come on, Aaliyah. It was just a joke. Don't be so serious." The words landed like a slap. She stood frozen, her hands trembling as she clutched her notebook. The laughter continued, a chorus that drowned out her thoughts. She wanted to scream, to demand why he thought this was funny, why he chose her. But her voice caught in her throat. Instead, she sat back down, her chair now a cold reminder of the moment. The lesson resumed, but Aaliyah's mind was elsewhere. She could still hear the laughter, feel the eyes on her. She glanced at her classmates, some avoiding her gaze, others whispering. Mr. Harper carried on as if nothing had happened, his voice droning about poll taxes and literacy tests. Aaliyah didn't tell anyone at first. She went through the rest of the day in a daze, her usual spark dimmed. At lunch, her best friend, Maya, noticed something was wrong. "You okay?" Maya asked, pushing a tray of fries toward her. Aaliyah shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper as she recounted the incident. Maya's eyes widened, her fists clenching. "He did what? That's not okay, Aaliyah. You need to tell someone." But Aaliyah wasn't sure who to tell. Her parents were always busy, and she didn't want to burden them. The school principal, Mrs. Carter, was kind but distant, and Aaliyah had heard stories of complaints being brushed off. She thought about confronting Mr. Harper, but the idea made her stomach churn. What if he laughed again? What if he turned it back on her? That night, she lay awake, replaying the moment. The laughter echoed in her mind, each chuckle a reminder of her humiliation. She thought about the history lesson, the irony of discussing Jim Crow while her teacher made her feel so small. She wondered if it was because she was black, because she was outspoken, or just because she was there. The questions gnawed at her, fueling a quiet anger. The next day, Aaliyah returned to history class, her jaw set. She avoided Mr. Harper's gaze, focusing on her notebook. But the atmosphere had shifted. Tyler and his friends kept glancing at her, smirking. During a group discussion, Ethan muttered, "Better hold onto your chair, Aaliyah," loud enough for others to hear. The snickers started again, and Mr. Harper did nothing, his eyes fixed on the whiteboard. Aaliyah's anger grew, but so did her resolve. She started talking to Maya and a few other friends, piecing together stories of Mr. Harper's jokes. Another student, Jamal, mentioned how Mr. Harper had once called him out in front of the class for not paying attention, even though he'd been taking notes. A girl named Sarah recalled how he'd mocked her accent when she read aloud. The pattern was clear. Mr. Harper's humor often targeted those who stood out, those who didn't blend into the majority. Aaliyah decided to act. She wrote a detailed account of the chair incident, her hands shaking as she typed. She shared it with Maya, who helped her refine it, making sure every detail was clear. They debated what to do next. Maya suggested going to the principal, but Aaliyah wanted more. She wanted her voice to be heard, not just by the school, but by the community. She posted her account anonymously on a local community forum, detailing the incident and its impact. She didn't name Mr. Harper directly, but described the event vividly, ending with a question. "Is this what we want our teachers to teach?" The post spread quickly. Parents, students, and even some teachers commented, some expressing outrage, others defending Mr. Harper as just having fun. The debate grew heated, with accusations of racism on one side and cries of oversensitivity on the other. Aaliyah watched the comments pour in, her heart racing. She hadn't expected it to blow up like this. At school, the tension was palpable. Whispers followed Aaliyah in the hallways, some supportive, others accusing her of stirring trouble. Mr. Harper's demeanor changed. His usual confidence was replaced by a forced cheerfulness. During class, he avoided calling on Aaliyah, his eyes skimming past her raised hand. She felt invisible, but she refused to back down. Tanya, Aaliyah's mother, caught wind of the post through a coworker. She sat Aaliyah down that evening, her face a mix of worry and pride. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. Aaliyah broke down, the weight of the past days spilling out. Tanya listened, her eyes narrowing as Aaliyah described Mr. Harper's laughter. "We're going to the school tomorrow," Tanya said. "This ends now." The meeting with Principal Carter was tense. Tanya laid out Aaliyah's story, her voice steady but laced with anger. Mr. Harper was there, his arms crossed, his face a mask of calm. He admitted to pulling the chair, calling it a misjudgment, but insisted it was meant as a harmless prank. "I treat all my students the same," he said, his tone defensive. Aaliyah's stomach twisted as she listened. She wanted to believe he hadn't meant harm, but the memory of his laughter told a different story. Principal Carter promised an investigation, but her words felt hollow. She spoke of restorative practices and learning opportunities, but Aaliyah sensed little would change. As they left the office, Tanya squeezed her daughter's hand. "You did the right thing," she said. "Don't let anyone make you feel small." The investigation dragged on, with interviews and statements from students and staff. Some corroborated Aaliyah's account, Others claimed they didn't remember the incident. Tyler and his friends denied laughing, their faces blank when questioned. Aaliyah felt the weight of their denial, the way it twisted her truth into something questionable. But the community forum kept the story alive. A local activist group picked it up, organizing a meeting at the town library. Aaliyah attended with Tanya, her heart pounding as she faced a room of strangers. She spoke, her voice shaking at first, but growing stronger. She talked about the chair, the laughter, the way it made her feel like she didn't belong. The room listened, some nodding, others wiping tears. A few parents shared similar stories about their children, tales of slights and dismissals that had gone unchecked. The investigation concluded with Mr. Harper receiving a formal reprimand and mandatory sensitivity training. He returned to the classroom, his lessons quieter, his humor gone. Aaliyah felt no victory. The reprimand was a slap on the wrist, and the whispers in the hallways continued. Some called her a hero, others a troublemaker. She carried both labels, her head still high but her heart heavier. The twist came weeks later. An anonymous email reached the school board containing a video from a student's phone. It showed the chair incident from a different angle, capturing Mr. Harper's smirk as Aaliyah fell, his laughter louder than she'd remembered. The video spread online, reigniting the debate. This time, the community demanded more than a reprimand. Parents called for Mr. Harper's suspension, and the school board faced pressure to act. Aaliyah watched the fallout from her phone, her hands trembling as comments poured in. Some praised her courage, others attacked her for ruining a good teacher's career. She didn't know how to feel. The video was proof, but it didn't erase the pain. It didn't make her feel safe in that classroom again. Tanya and Marcus decided to pull Aaliyah from Lincoln High, enrolling her in a nearby charter school with a more diverse student body. Aaliyah hated leaving her friends, but she felt a weight lift as she walked into her new classroom. The teachers there knew her story, and they welcomed her with warmth, not judgment. Aaliyah's fight didn't end with the transfer. She started a blog, sharing her experiences and those of other students who felt marginalized. Her words reached beyond her town, connecting with kids who'd faced similar betrayals. She spoke at community events, her voice growing steadier each time. She wasn't just Aaliyah anymore. She was a voice, a spark, a reminder that silence wasn't an option. Wherever you're watching from, Chicago, Birmingham, Nairobi, or anywhere else, don't let this story fade. Share it. Talk about it. Ask yourself, what happens when trust is broken in a classroom? How do we hold those in power accountable? Drop your thoughts, start a conversation, and let's make sure no one else feels the sting of that laughter.